Good afternoon and welcome to our MTD webinar about bridging software. So obviously MTD is kicking off on the 1st of April. VAT returns don't need to be submitted in the MTD way until a few months later, but it's very important that we all know as much about it as possible, and we believe that bookkeepers are really the people best placed to help clients, small businesses across the UK deal with the changes. So I'm very pleased today we have Mark O'Grady joining us. He is, he's built his own bridging software, so that is a bridging software called Tax Optimiser. So Mark is going to be able to tell us a few things about bridging software, starting off with, of course, a little bit of background information about MTD, why it's happening, how it's going to affect us, and what you can do to help your clients continue to use, or you yourself continue to use, Excel spreadsheets. So when I first came across Mark, I was basically we picked up the phone to speak to each other, and I realized that Mark has a great deal of knowledge in the MTD area. So I'm incredibly pleased he's joining us today, and I will now hand over to Mark. Hello, Mark.
Hi there. Hi, Amy. Right, so shall I start? So first of all, I'll share my screen. Right, so hopefully you can see my screen now. Making tax digital and what it's about. So first of all, I'm going to go through 5 different areas. First of all, why HMRC doing MTD, then what is bridging software, who needs to sign up, and this is an MTD question in general, and then we look at Tax Optimizer, and then some of my future predictions with MTD and where it could lead. So first of all, why are HMRC doing it? Well, they're bringing in a whole new system. And although lots of people are coming to me at the moment saying it doesn't seem like we're doing much, there's much difference because we're just submitting the same 9 boxes as before. For HMRC, it's actually a big change because there's a big fundamental change with their computer systems and how it authenticates. So it's not very exciting, but I think this is just the first stage in a much bigger plan. One of the things that it will do, and I think at this stage it will fix one problem, is that's with people making keying errors when keying their VAT return into the system, into the current existing portal. And I've done work with large enterprises before on keying accuracy, and even people who are very good at keying make a 90%, they're 90% accurate, and therefore if we span that over 8 million VAT returns, obviously there's a big problem. So if they can solve that 10%, then obviously that's a big saving for them at the moment without other changes that can come into the future. So next up, what is bridging software? So I'll just close this down. So basically, bridging software allows you to submit data from an Excel spreadsheet to HMRC. So it's just a mechanism of taking the data, converting it to HMRC's format, and sending it down the line. So who is it for? Well, there's lots of different reasons, and as I've been building this out, I didn't think it was going to be a huge market, but actually there's a lot of reasons why people need bridging software. And so I've got everyone from small micro businesses up to FTSE 100 companies. And so basically it's first of all, it's for people who do their accounts within Excel. So you know, lots of people do their accounts in Excel. It's perfectly viable, and for a lot of people it's simple, and they just need something to calculate the data and then submit it. So we'll take a look at that in a moment. And also some companies have huge complex systems and they need to get data from different areas and put them into an Excel spreadsheet and use calculations that way. There's also people with bespoke systems and foreign systems who are never going to implement MTD, but they can export a VAT summary or the transactions. And then there's existing systems like Sage, like Access Dimensions, where you've got the option, if you don't want to upgrade the software, you can use your existing format, and as long as you can export the 9 boxes, then you're fine. The important key part of this is that the 9 boxes are calculated using software, so that can class as a program creating the VAT summary, or it can class as an Excel spreadsheet using formulas. And so, will bridging software be allowed after 2020? And the answer is yes. In the interim, you're allowed to copy and paste between systems on the soft launch, but after that, and I would say, due to the fact that I've seen so many different scenarios, they're going to have to allow Excel bridging. There's also a lot of systems that don't calculate the VAT for things like flat rates or the margin scheme. So again, you can use a spreadsheet for that. Even if you're using Sage, you may want to do some calculations outside of that. So I've got a couple of different types of spreadsheets here. So this would be the main one if you're using Excel to calculate or to track all your transactions. So first of all, it needs to be a digital record. And so what a digital record is, it's a date, a value, and the VAT rate, and the customer or supplier. And that classes as a digital record. So we can see here it's in a spreadsheet. It could be within a database. And for all intents and purposes, a database, and this has come from a technical point of view, is pretty much the same thing as a spreadsheet. There's a few differences, but essentially they're technically the same thing. They look very similar to this with columns and rows. So you can calculate it within here. So we've got our sales and purchases within here. And you're not allowed to have a calculator on the side and then type in over the top. You need to use formulas. So I've got a sum here for the sales, and we can see it just sums all the VAT there. So we can see all the VAT due. So that's 2,000. And then we've got our purchases, which is only 112. And then we can see the net VAT due is 1,888. So that's one example. The other example is where, sorry, I should have this open. The other example is something like Access Dimensions or Sage or something like that. And we can see here, they export a report like this. Now, this was previously calculated in Access Dimensions, or as it could be Sage. And this is, you're also allowed to upload this into MTD bridging software. So now we've covered that off, let's discuss quickly, before we go any further, who needs to sign up. So if you've got an existing gateway account, you will need to, as an end organization, you will need to sign up your account if you're a business to Making Tax Digital, and you'd go through this link, which I can provide at the end, which is sign up for Making Tax Digital, and then you'd follow this step, and then you'd go through the different stages, and eventually they will move your account onto MTD, and then you can use Making Tax Digital software. If you're an agent, you'll actually need to have a new agent services account, and then you'll need to go through a routine of signing up your clients. Now, I've got an actual mock-out of this. So you'll need to enter your client's VAT return number. Then you'll confirm that. Then you'll select what type of business they are. Then it'll ask you further questions based on that. And then it'll ask you to confirm and continue. And then you enter your email address and click agree. And then that will add the user to your agent services account. And I think you add your additional client services account, and then, sorry, then you accept and continue. And so at that point, it will take up to 72 hours, and then your client's account will be added to your agent services account, and you can submit on their behalf. So hopefully that makes sense. So for businesses, they need to just use their current gateway account, but register. And for an agent, you need to add a new agent account and then add all your existing clients to that account. So once you've done that, you can use bridging software. And so I'm going to sign up here for Tax Optimizer. So I'm just going to demo account. So I'm going to sign up as an accountant here. Passwords in. So first of all, you will get a dashboard. So this is the accountant's dashboard. It's slightly different from the end user dashboard, although you can allow your businesses their own account to be able to log in and take a look at their VAT returns. So we'll start off by adding an organisation. So I'm going to go to organisation down the side. And go to actions and add new. You can also do a bulk upload of all your organisations within the system. You'll need to put a VAT registration number in. And I've got the rest of these details here just because people have asked to be able to store things like the corporation tax number. I think a lot of that's going to come later. We can also see internal accounts, so you can associate managers and accounts within your firm or practice, and we'll see how that works later. But all we need to do is enter the VAT return number. Now, once we've done that, we're going to go to HMRC, and then I'm first of all going to go through the settings. So you can actually use your own spreadsheet. And if we look at our example here with transactions, we can see the tab name along the bottom is VAT, and that relates to this value here. So what we can do is we can map it to use our different spreadsheets. So we've got B4, B5, B6 that are relevant to the different cells of the 9 boxes. Likewise, if we wanted to use a template, say we're using Sage 200, QuickBooks Desktop, Sage 50, Access Dimensions, there's a whole range of them, then you can select them from the template. We can actually do the Access Dimensions one here and hit Save. Then we need to go through the stage of authorizing the software. So at this point, we're going to go through a dummy process here, but this would take you to HMRC's website to enter your credentials and then allow Tax Optimizer to submit on your behalf. But I've created a dummy account here, so you can sign up to Tax Optimizer after this and just go through setting everything up. And you can do it without actually sending anything to HMRC. So going through this dummy mode, as we'll see in a moment, we'll just hit continue. You don't need any credentials there, you can just hit sign in. And this is the important part. This is where you grant authority for Tax Optimizer to be able to get the data and submit the data to HMRC. So I'm just going to hit grant there. And so now we can see the VAT returns have been pulled through. So this is demo data, and I've purposely made it in 2018. And we can see we've got 18A1, so it can pull your existing returns, even if you submit them through other systems. So maybe you're using Xero or something like that. We'll see in a moment and a bit later. There's some ways of using Tax Optimizer, even if you're using Xero. But you can track those, and that's come through as fulfilled and completed. It will also pull through any liabilities, so any things that you need, the organisation needs to pay, and it will also track through payments as well. We haven't got them in this example. Next, we're going to click into the period, so we can see this one is open and the confirmation of data required. So this means it needs to be submitted. So I'm simply going to, well, I'm going to show you here quickly. It gives you all the details of the period, start date, the due date, HMRC status, so it's open according to HMRC, confirmation of data required, and then we've got our 9 boxes. Now we need to get that data from the spreadsheet into this system, and all you need to do simply is drag that onto this box here, and then it's pulled that data through that was on here. So when we saw 50,000, 20,000, 25,000, that's all been pulled through on this, and that classes as a digital link because we're downloading the data from Access Dimensions and uploading it into this software, and that classes as a digital link. It also keeps an audit log of any changes whenever you've updated figures, or you'll see in a moment when you've submitted them. I do have a couple of sample downloads that you can download there of different types of Excel spreadsheets. But once we're happy, we can just hit send return. It will just bring up a confirmation screen. You can add notes. They're internal. They don't actually go to HMRC. We can hit accept. And then once we've done that, we've got a confirmation receipt from HMRC. So we can see the processing date, the bank, the form bundle number, and the charge reference number. and then you can do a printout at that point. We can also see in the audit log that we've submitted it and it has been accepted as well. And that's it. In terms of bridging software, that's as far as it goes. Now, there's more things that we can do. So as such, that's as much you can do in terms of just submitting the data. I'm just going to log in with a different account. And so at the moment, there's certain areas of the system that I've hidden at the moment that I'm just going through some tests to make sure that they work and what can we do. So you'll have noticed in the previous one, all you can do is go into the organisations individually and look at their returns. But we can do this on a global level here. So we can see all the open returns that we've got to do, so just a big long list, and all the different statuses. We can limit that by partner. And I should also show you that I've done the same thing for Companies House. So this is using the Companies House API. This can also go out to Companies House, fetch the confirmation dates and the next account's due date. So that just allows you a bit of an overview. But what can we do with that, taking it one step further, and what I've done for a few firms at the moment is a lot of people like to use Trello, and Trello is basically a task list for people to keep track of all their different jobs. So we can see here, this is the Companies House example, but the VAT return one works in an identical way. If you've just got a plain task list, it's tough to visualize in your head at what stages everything's at and what part you need to work on. So I won't go fully into Trello, but it's a good way of splitting out your jobs into different statuses, and then you only need to focus on a few jobs at a time. And so we push them into here. We set the due date as well, so you can see the due date. And so lots of people use this along with lots of other different tasks. Sorry. Lots of other different tasks. But what Tax Optimizer does is populate your tasks without you having to create them individually all the time and maybe forgetting some. So it will populate them all. You can split them out between multiple bookkeepers, however you want to do it, and then push it. And that's one of the one of the really big things that can come out of using an API is linking it up with other software. And that's really the power of these APIs, is you can do a bit more with them than before, having to keep track of all your clients when you've got to submit them. It can do that for you. I'm also working on tools within the system to be able to automatically email your clients and chase them when their VAT return or Companies House returns are due. So I'm just thinking where I'm at and what's the future. So the future for MTD, self-assessment and sole traders are coming, and I've already written a lot of the code to be able to do that. I'm just going to make sure that the VAT return part is running very smoothly. And then I think HMRC, after that, discussing it with them, it's not quite on the roadmap yet, I don't think, but I think there's corporation tax after that. And that could be a long way away. There's no set dates on that. And a lot of other people are asking, when will they need all the transaction data? And at the moment, speaking to them, they're not looking for the transaction data. So that's all the digital records. That's, if we go into here, that's all this data. They're not asking for that, and I can't see them asking for it for a long time. But I do see a massive benefit of them doing it, and I could go into a lot of detail about it. And I've got a short video which I can show you, which basically, allows you to, and this is using Xero. Essentially, when we start to make things digital, rather than using a receipting app or something like that, which often goes to another country potentially to be keyed in if it can't be OCR'd, and takes 3 hours to be scanned, we could use these digital records, and I've created a QR code from a digital record. And what it can do is, this is submitting it directly into Xero, and it would take less than a second, and it would be 100% accurate. So where current receipting apps possibly not all of them, but possibly are sort of 90% accurate, because when they're confusing, they need to be keyed. When everything's digital, there is the potential there to submit it straight into things like Xero, straight into things like QuickBooks that are 100% accurate and very quick. And that's where I see a real benefit for MTD in the future, but I think it's quite a way off.
And just to clarify, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Does that mean you mean straight into your accounting package without using a third party?
Yes.
app?
Yeah. So you could pull it directly into third party apps straight, in seconds. And I think personally, from my perspective, this idea is already used within the supermarket industry. But there's been no attempt to do it within sort of mainstream bookkeeping and accounting systems. But if there was an open standard that no one really owned, but it was agreed by, then you could do things like this. And that's where I think HMRC should go. I think it's really a really powerful idea.
So you could have a QR code on everything, basically.
Yes. And that would be your invoice. And you could submit to HMRC all these records very quickly, and they could do an audit a lot quicker as well.
Wow. Okay.
I think
that's very interesting.
I could probably go into that in a bit more detail. I've probably just brushed over it, but yeah, I think if I was HMRC, I would be looking at stuff like this, because I see that as the only real benefit for helping businesses at the moment, because a lot of people are struggling because it's more process at the moment, and it's not necessarily saving them time, but something like that, if they were to standardise and everyone was to adopt that, then it would be a big saving for everyone.
It also, though, does sort of cut out an entire set of major software providers or app providers, doesn't it? Right? Like the receipt banks, the auto entry, etc.
There is. I think that they can provide value in a different way. I think it would take a long time for someone to implement a system like this, potentially. But I think there's other things that those software providers could do. But essentially, it does eat into that area. I won't deny that.
Fantastic. And you did briefly touch on it. Could you just sort of confirm what exactly the MTD requirement is for keeping digital records and submitting VAT returns digitally?
Yeah.
And this completely satisfies those two requirements,
yes.
Does it?
So as long as you're keeping track of the customer, the date, the value, and the VAT rate, that is a digital record. That would be valid, and then you can submit that through software as long as you're doing the calculation here. And as I say, the important part is that you're using a formula. You're not just calculating this up on the side, so you're not potentially making a keying error here. Then you can submit that through software, and that's going to be valid, I perceive, for quite a long time. I think indefinitely, personally.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I wonder if you could just clarify, do you know exactly when are the first MTD VAT returns being done? Obviously, we've got certain people on the pilot at the moment, haven't we?
Yeah. So the pilot is effectively the same as just the going live system. I haven't checked recently, but about a month ago, I definitely had 100, and I've submitted definitely over £1 million of VAT returns by now.
Wow.
So
it works. The system works.
The system works, and it seems, I'm getting lots of people all the time. I've had quite a few today submit. So it is all working, and it's just from April, everyone, their return after April will be the next submission. So I think at latest, somewhere August. Exactly.
So basically, there's no you can submit your next VAT return if that is for the period ending March 31st, there's still time to submit that VAT return, and essentially you shouldn't kind of switch on MTD until you're ready to submit your VAT return for April 1st onwards.
Yes, yeah, from April onwards. But just to be aware that when switching the accounts, and I'll just go to the other screen here, if you've got a direct debit, and this has been updated, but you can't sign up within 7 days leading up to, or 5 working days to your VAT return. So just to be aware of that. But once you have, then you can submit, then you can sign up at any point, and then you'll be registered for making tax digital. Does that make sense?
I think so. Because if you don't have a direct debit set up.
Yeah, if you don't have a direct debit set up, you could essentially register for making tax digital now, and then you just need to submit your next return via software.
Okay. As long as your next return is for the period after 1st of April.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So don't move too soon.
No, you don't need to until after April.
So just for anybody who missed any of that, there was a small interlude in the middle. I am very sorry for that, and there will be a recording posted to the YouTube channel. So don't worry, you can watch the whole thing again ad infinitum. And does anybody have any other questions? I know we've got about 64 people online. If you've got any questions, now is the time. Was there anything else you wanted to mention, Mark? Because I've sort of interjected.
I mean, if you want to try the software out, I should do the sales pitch.
Yes, that's a good idea.
If you want to try the software out, you can sign up. I'll just go through the pricing quickly. So for individual businesses, so if you've just got one business, it's free for the first year and then £30 a year after that per organisation. For accountants, you don't get that first year, but it's obviously cheaper to submit for multiple organisations. So up to 10 organisations at the moment is £5 a month. Up to 50 organisations is £15 a month. And if you want more, then
so it's an organisation being a client.
Is a client, yeah. And your clients can also access the system. So you can add your clients so they can also access only their data, but they get a login as well.
And somebody's just asked the question, do you need to set up a new spreadsheet for each quarter? I suppose you could just have it on a different tab.
Yeah, you could have, so I had a call about this earlier today. So you've obviously got to get the data in here for the relevant quarter. So you could have a different tab for each quarter. You could also have it so you take the data from a different place, so you change so you have one tab, but you change the cell references. There's a number of ways to do it. Within our software, if you've got different tabs for different quarters, then you would just change in the VAT settings each time, just the sheet name. And then it will know where to put the data from.
Very nice. Can you see this QA?
Yeah, I can. So in my quarter.
So,
I've got this. Sorry, I've got this outstanding with my question for HMRC, and I've spoken to some other people, and supposedly your March to May one can still be done through the old system, but I'm waiting for HMRC on that.
Oh, that's interesting. Because technically you are still going to be physically able to use the old VAT submissions form, right? Because it's not being switched off, because there are obviously people who are exempt and people below the threshold that still have to use it.
So once you've signed up through this system here, you can no longer use the old portal. So once the client or the business has signed up through this, they have to do it through software.
Okay. But ultimately, what you can do, you can set up your agent services account. Because this also links into somebody else's question that says, once I've set up that account, does it mean I can only submit for my clients digitally? You can set up your agent services account and you can link clients to it, but then you only start submitting MTD VAT returns once you've switched on MTD per individual client.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Once you've connected them up to your new agent services account, that means that they'll be on MTD and they can only submit via software.
Oh, so as soon as you've connected your clients to your agent services account?
Yes, to the new agent services account, yes. As far as I know, there has been a bit of a lack of clarity from HMRC on a few questions, but I'm sort of 99% sure that that's the case.
Okay, well, do you know what? I will go back and I'll get clarification on that, because I understood there was an additional step, which is signing your clients up for MTD.
Yeah.
And that what HMRC was actually recommending people do is set up the agent services account, link clients to it as the sort of the necessary first step,
Yeah.
and then sign up, switch on MTD for all their clients. The reason I think this is because we've had a lot of members calling us and saying, I think I've done everything, but MTD still isn't working.
Yeah. So that could be the case. I mean, that might be the case. There has been a bit of confusion because they released the agent part a lot later than the business part. So it was only very recently put into the test system that the agent service account was there. So,
okay, so I will send everybody a follow-up email with clarification on that point, whether as soon as your clients are in your agent services account, is it MTD or nothing? I think no. We can have a wager. So we've got a couple more questions coming through. So Bazina wants to know if she can enter the total sums from another software, or do I have to enter a single one? I'm not sure what that means really. Can you answer that, Mark?
Digital link. Can I enter total sums from another software, or do I have to enter a single one? So if you're bringing the data from different pieces of software, very much like you have here, you would need, because basically if HMRC are to audit you, you would need to prove how the data was calculated. So if you're getting totals from one system and totals from another, you would need to put them somewhere within the spreadsheet, and then you would need to use a formula to add them together to create these VAT totals. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, well, let us know, Bazena, if that doesn't answer your question, and we can have another go.
Does digital link mean using Excel formula? So digital link, with regards to, does it have to be a formula, or can it be? So there's lots of different types of digital link, and basically it's done through software programming. So this formula, this is a bit like software programming. So that's a formula. It can be coded within some software. So someone like me, I can develop some code to calculate data from a database, and that classes as a digital link. Sending it across via email if you've got some transactions to your accountant or to someone else or to a client, that also classes as a digital link. I'll just bring up the guidance through this. It makes sense.
Yes, that's a good idea.
So digital record keeping, you'll see here that I'm going to change all this. So here's a digital link, and this is what digital links can be. So you can email a spreadsheet containing digital records, and then they can import it into software to do calculations for things like partial exemptions. You can transfer digital records via a portable device. The way that the bridging software is working, and a lot of the bridging software is working, is XML, CSV, import and export, and download and upload files. Well, instead of it being an XML or CSV file, it's an Excel file. And then you're just downloading it from, let's say, Sage, and then you're uploading it into something like Tax Optimizer. Automated data transfer and API transfer, they're probably pretty much the same thing, but that would be something like putting it in a Dropbox and automatically going into some software to then submit, would be examples of those. So they're sort of digital links, and you'll see here also one thing to consider: cut and paste or copy and paste don't class as digital links, but they will be allowed here. Your section after that, you will be allowed to use copy and paste for the soft landing. So hopefully that answers your question.
So Lewis, actually, I'm having this nice chat with Lewis. I was a bit worried it was, you know, tumbleweed on the chat. My fault for perhaps not having set it up. So Lewis has been on an HMRC ASA webinar today.
Okay.
Now, just about the first VAT return periods, we do have a little table of first VAT return periods on the ICB website. So if you go to, it's just the normal website address, bookkeepers.org.uk/MTD. There's a table at the bottom of the first page that's got some information about the deadline dates, and it does discuss the direct debit and non-direct debit issue. So Linda, you've asked, if you keep the same spreadsheet and if you set up different tabs for each quarter and change the formulae, isn't that possibly asking for trouble? Also, do you keep the VAT return tax summary for the old VAT return quarters? And how does Tax Optimizer work when you drag it in with lots of VAT returns on it? How does it distinguish the current VAT return you're filing?
So the way that Tax Optimizer does it, can I log in? The way that Tax Optimizer does it is that you click into the VAT return that you're submitting against. So you've clicked in, you've picked it out from a list, and you can see the start and end dates. So you've got the list there. The way that it determines it, because a lot of people have asked me if it can track dates and things like that on the spreadsheet. That's something that I might add. But not all systems output things like the dates. So there's potential for you to be able to click in and click the wrong return. But you can't submit a return to HMRC if it's not currently ready. So you can only submit returns that are due. So if you clicked on, say I had a whole list for a year, if you tried to click on a later one, you wouldn't actually be able to submit it to HMRC. We've got something in place to set that, but you wouldn't actually be able to submit it, and they wouldn't accept it because the previous one is not due.
Oh no, user one says the screen is too small to read.
Okay, so is that better?
Ooh. There we go. That is a bit better. It is quite small, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pinkie, user one.
Yeah,
I was just going to ask a question. I don't know if you covered this already. Am I right in thinking with the ASA, you can't see a list of all of your clients, and it's something they are saying that they've done that on purpose. But is that right?
So yes, you can't see a list. Within my system, obviously you can.
Yes, so that's what I'm thinking. That's quite a good reason to use something like this, so you can actually see that kind of overview of each of your clients and see whether you've done the right thing or not done the right thing, you know, submitted or not.
Because and I'm currently changing this. This is the bit that's in beta at the moment, because one of my clients wants to see the VAT return number in here as well, because HMRC in their ASA account only show the VAT return numbers in a list, and obviously that doesn't help them that much because they don't know everyone's VAT return numbers. So they want some way of you know, a big list here, but to include the VAT return numbers so they can marry it up as well. Yeah, I don't know why HMRC haven't done that.
I think they've said it's something to do with data security, but I think that sounds like a cop-out to me. Now, I just wanted to say that we are doing an HMRC Agent Services webinar on the 26th of March. There will be no technical difficulties for that webinar at all, I can assure you. So do please log in for that if you are interested. Linda would really love to see the templates for Sage and QuickBooks ETC again, if possible.
Yeah.
Are you able to do that for her, Mark?
I'm just seeing whether I've got a Sage. We jumped to my other computer because my other computer was having a problem just beforehand, and I think that's got all my. Put this off to one side. I think that's got all my Sage 50 examples. I'll see whether I can. Back example, I might have it. Oh, I don't think I do. However, if I go into an organisation, so I'll just pick an organisation at random here. If we go into the VAT settings, you can specify the template. So if, for instance, you're exporting from stage 50. You can select the optional templates here, and then whenever Sage exports a VAT return, the tab along the bottom is called VAT return, and it's always within cell I11, I12, I13, etc. And we've managed to get every version pretty much of Sage submitted via MTD. So I've even had users on very old DOS versions where they were able to print the VAT return to a file, and then we're able to import it into Excel and then submit it. So we've had it working for pretty much everything.
I just thought that what I might try and do is do a little poll. So I'm just busy typing in a little poll, just so we can find out what software everyone's using.
I would say another quick benefit, and this is, sorry, I'm just, I did have this in my notes, but another big benefit of doing web-based bridging software over, there's lots of people who have plugins for Excel, is that with web-based solutions, you can use any spreadsheet software, so whether you're using things like OpenOffice, LibreOffice, Mac with numbers, it doesn't really matter as long as you're able to save the file to Excel or to a CSV file in this instance. You can then upload it through our software. And we deal with all the mappings. So I've even had users on very old versions of Excel, so where you can't install plugins. So even versions, Excel version 3, which I think was released in 1990, we've managed to submit a HMRC MTD VAT return via very old versions of Excel.
Okay, fantastic. Let me just see.
Questions.
I've launched a poll. I'm just wondering if anybody who's still online, thank you for watching with us. And if you can, yeah, oh, there we go. Oh, this is lovely. Can everyone see that live? What great data. I wonder if there is a correlation between the people who are using Sage and the people who are interested in bridging software. Obviously, there must be a correlation between Excel users and bridging software users, I'm sure. Very interesting. Obviously, if there's any that I haven't mentioned, please, you can add them in the chat as well. That would be good to know. What are you finding, Mark? Do you know which software your customers are using?
So that I'm having lots of people on. I'd say Sage is one of the biggest because everyone has to upgrade, and not everyone is in a place with their business, so they're able to upgrade, or sometimes they don't want to pay the additional support fee because they bought Sage a long time ago. I would say I get a lot of them. I get a lot of large sort of companies and like public companies who've got very complex systems that they wouldn't be able to use. I'm getting a few access dimensions, and there's a few American software providers who have pushed their customers onto me because they're not going to develop an MTD solution for this software.
And just Jane was wondering, can we use Tax Optimizer as an interim for the first quarter, 06-19, as in June 19, and then move to something like 0?
Yes.
Would any re-registration at HMRC be required?
No.
You just have to authorize.
Yeah. So I'd say a lot of my bigger accounting firms the majority of their clients are on 0 and QuickBooks, but they just want the list of, so where we have the list of VAT returns, they're interested in this part. So you can have multiple pieces of software, one to keep track of your VAT returns and one to do the submissions and that sort of thing.
So it could be Tax Optimizer for life, is what you're saying?
Potentially, yeah, hopefully, yeah.
If you want it to be. Fantastic. I don't know if did you cover at all what Tax Optimizer also does? Why the reason it got its name?
Yeah, so Tax Optimizer, I haven't covered that.
Because I actually, obviously I heard about Tax Optimizer because I was getting these reports in that it was great for MTD. And Jackie, our head of technical policy, came back from an HMRC working group where everyone was talking about Tax Optimizer and how great it was. And then I went to your website and I was like, oh, this looks like a great tool for bookkeepers, particularly bookkeepers who are moving into the FRS 105, 102, 1A space and doing, you know, corporation tax and self-assessment tax for their clients.
Yeah. So I'll show you something that's hidden at the moment. So there's lots within Tax Optimizer, and I'm just making sure that everything goes smoothly for VAT, but actually there's lots within Tax Optimizer. So how Tax Optimizer started is that I helped a firm a few years ago really streamline a lot of their processes, and I learned a bit about tax, and then realised when it comes to myself that I want to be able to track my taxes and what things I should be doing, things like R&D tax and everything for myself. And a lot of my friends were not getting tax advice early on to help them with these sorts of things. So due to understanding tax and doing all these calculations with this other piece of software, I decided to go down to the QuickBooks hackathon in London, which is another recent one. And I entered this in, and it won Best Integration into QuickBooks, and it's also won Xero's Most Innovative Piece of Software, but it's slightly yet to be released. So it can pull data in from QuickBooks and Xero, and basically you can key the data in manually, so you can enter all your organisation's details, the turnover, the purchases, capital allowances. If you've done an R&D spend, you can enter that in, and also number of employees and directors' loans and that sort of thing. And you can also take into account the directors, so it can work out the best way to structure salary and dividend, and it will take into account all these other things, capital gains. And once you've entered all that, or it's been pulled in from Xero QuickBooks, and I should just also add that you can change rates. So if you wanted to see what would happen if it was 20%, you can change all that. Then you can hit calculate, and within seconds, should be seconds, it'll work out multiple different structures. So you can sit down with your client and actually talk through numbers, because when actually go to an accountant and sitting there, when someone's talking to you about dividends and salary, unless you really understand it, you can't visualize it in your head. So it gives you a breakdown and gives you little bits of information. Often looking at other tools, it wouldn't bring in things like research and development tax credits. So when looking at between a sole trader and a limited company, sometimes it is worth using R&D tax credits. It'll then give you a full breakdown of VAT, corporation tax, with first year annual, all the different levels, and also the personnel, so all the directors will give their national insurance, income tax. And you'd have seen a few of these red tags. They can actually take you away. So with a high income tax, for instance, you can make an investment via either the SEIS or EIS scheme. And so these are things that you can sit there and discuss with your clients and try and work out, different tax strategies that they could utilise to help them either save tax or utilise tax in a better way.
So just a little ICB note, obviously you should only do things that you are competent, you should only provide services that you feel competent in providing and confident in providing. But this could certainly, if you've done your corporation tax, etc., qualifications up at level 4, fellow level, this could, seems to me like this would be a very good tool to be using as a kind of ready reckoner, a way of just thinking about extra things that you can have so that you can have those conversations with your clients. And I don't know about you, Mark, it seems to me that the way of the future for bookkeepers is to be able to use all of these powerful pieces of software to their advantage. So you can't automate every process, but I think there probably are going to be more and more tools added to your kind of tech stack, I suppose, that you can utilize to speed up your internal processes and then enable you to, offer a fuller suite of services to your clients. Did you have anything you want to add on that? Because we probably need to wrap up now, sadly. But
I mean, I have a few other things in the throws around that sort of area as well that I've developed, but I think that would be for later.
I mean, what are your thoughts? So I know that you've said a couple of things on LinkedIn about how you can't automate an entire practice.
No,
You know,
no.
the bookkeeping role is here to stay.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I have discussions with lots of people about this, and obviously people come to me, and so I work with quite a few big firms on other stuff and building different ideas out. And you know, even with that QR codes and the receipting apps and everything like that, a lot of it can't be automated for lots of different reasons. And especially with this tax optimization, this can give you talking points that a lot of people miss, but it's never going to automate either a tax advisor or anything like that. But these tools can be there to assist you a bit more. But there's lots of reasons why pretty much everything can't be automated. You know, I've looked into, you know, various levels of machine learning, all sorts of different things, and I have helped automate firms in a big way, but a lot of it can't be automated. I see.
Great. So good news for ICB bookkeepers, but it does mean that obviously keeping your digital skills up is going to become more and more important. Wonderful. So Mark, I really enjoyed that. That was very useful. I hope that everybody watching has found it as useful as I have. We will endeavour to answer any unanswered questions in our follow-up email, and this recording will be available in full on the ICB YouTube channel by the end of the week. That's youtube.com/ICB UK. ICB UK, and thank you very much, Mark, for joining us. And
yeah, thank you very much.
Good luck with Tax Optimizer. I can't wait to find out what else it can do in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Great.
Okay,
Have a lovely afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.